everyone! We're in the last video, so if you haven't watched any of the other videos before, again, you're probably sick of this one by now, but I'm a senior in college and I commute to college, obviously, and I went to a community college for 2 years and I am at a 4-year university now in my last year. So this video is going to be on the overall pros and cons of living at home in college and kind of just what my experience was and is. So I'm just going to jump right into this like a big pool of water. So first I'm going to go over the pros because I like to start positive. Maybe we should go over the pros last so that we end positive. Whatever, I'm just gonna do the pros first. Okay, so pro number one, which is the hugest one, which is why everyone wants to maybe do this, is that you save a ton of money. So I don't have any student loans. I was actually able to pay for my college with scholarships and grants and everything. So I was able, that was like huge. And of course I paid for some of it with my own money, a portion of it with my own money, but most of it is with that, so I didn't have to get any student loans, so woohoo! My next pro is that you have the freedom from campus. There's nothing more sweet than getting to drive away from school. I mean, you don't even have to be there anymore. If you have a bad day, adios, I'm getting in my car and I'm driving down the freeway. See you later. So that's definitely a huge pro. I love that, and I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm independent and I like to be, you know, this kind of merges into my next one, which is you get to be close to the real world and life and everything like that. So you get to know what it's like to drive to school and to commute, and you get to see other commuters and wave hi to them. You are more close to being an adult, and I really like that feeling. I've always been that kind of person that's like, I'm gonna be an adult and I'm gonna be in the world, and I just love that feeling. So if that's something that you like, you'll get to learn to be really independent. I mean, obviously you're not transitioned as easily. You have to kind of go out into the real world, but you do get to come home and that's your base. So it's definitely, you get to still transition to the real world, I would say, a little bit easier than if you live on the dorms because you're not in this bubble. You're actually getting to go into the real world. My next pro is that you don't have to deal with roommates. I mean, you kind of do because you're dealing with your family, but you've lived with them for, what, 18, 19 years by now? I mean, you know, you got them down, and you can say whatever you want to them because, I mean, don't be rude, but, you know, you can communicate in a more effective way. Okay, next. You get to have pets. Awesome. In the dorms, you don't get pets. You get like a goldfish in a goldfish tank like this big, but you can't have any pets. I have a cat, and she's awesome. And there's this feeling of getting to come home to your little pet and just pet them and just love them. So that's a pro. I mean, if you're not an animal lover, I guess that's not a pro. But if you're an animal lover, that's a definite pro for me. Okay, so next is you get family support. So you get to be supported by your family. They get to tell you, woo, you got 100% on your grade. You get, you know, like they'll take you out to pizza if you know, it's just that feeling of being able to go home to your family. That's just like that close family, you know, closeness, bond, tie. Okay, so those are the main pros for me that I've experienced about living at home. The next is going to be the cons. So obviously there's pros and cons to everything. So this is the cons for staying at home in college. The biggest one is commuting. So this is kind of a pro for me because I like to go out and commute. I like to drive. I'm a driver. So, but the downside of that is that if your car breaks down, you can't go to class, and you know, you kind of have to have a backup plan, so I like have to have a second car lined up for me and a ride and a bus schedule going for me. So there's definitely a lot more stress, I guess, about getting to class. It's not like you can walk across campus. You actually have to plan and, like, you know, do stuff. You have to chisel ice off your windshield and drive in the rain. The weather is definitely one. It's big. It can affects your hair, and it affects, I guess it affects you if you live on campus too, but you have to drive in it. That's the main thing. You don't have the dorm convenience, so you're pretty much living out of your car, so you're gonna have a ton of stuff in your car. Car maintenance and gas, that's an expense that you have. Obviously it's not as expensive as living in the dorms, but you do have to perform maintenance and gas and all that kind of thing. Also, socializing is a little bit trickier. Obviously it's not like impossible, but it is definitely more tricky, and you have to do a little bit more planning. There's some weird noises in my house. Okay, so also, con with your family is that you do have to deal with them. Sounds really bad, but you have them, they're kind of distracting sometimes, and you can have family fights and then you don't feel good, and there's just like a little bit of family drama, but I feel like you get like roommate drama too, so I feel like kind of like cancels it out. So depending on your family, also you might not get that independence that you want. You might have to learn to set boundaries. There's definitely a lot of more learning to communicate as a good human being. So that, I mean, it's good to learn those skills because you have to eventually, but I mean, if that's not what you want to do right now, then take what you will. The last one is that the college experience is a little bit trickier. Again, if you're really into the college experience, you probably, if you're living at home, are gonna get into it anyways, because that's just how life works. But you do kind of have to deal with not being as connected to campus. You're not as connected. You can't go to the 10:30 at night open mics or comedy shows and all that kind of thing. So it's a little bit trickier, especially if you live farther away. So if you live like 5 minutes from campus, which you're lucky then, you can go to whatever you want. But I live a little bit further from that, so yeah, it's a little bit harder to be involved on campus, but not impossible. Seriously, if you are really dedicated, then you can socialize. So overall, I've enjoyed my experience of living at home. Obviously, in the beginning, I wasn't as a fan of it because I wanted the college experience, but I've gotten to learn about myself a lot more, and that's not really what I wanted. It's just what was expected of me. So keep that in mind. Keep in mind what you really want versus what the world wants you to do, what's culturally and socially norms expected of you. So this concludes my series. I hope you enjoyed this series. If you have any other videos that you want me to make about this, living at home in college and impact of, that I somehow missed, then let me know in the comments, and I will see you in my next video. Okay, yeah, that's it. Pros and cons? I think it's a pretty cool thing to do, but you know. Okay,